everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refine and Shine. I'm super excited about my guest because she is just a light and she has been on my podcast before. If you remember the panel, the Dolled Up Effect panel that we had that came out around June or July timeframe. My guest today is Karen Diaz. She is a performer, a photographer, and a proud community voice from the high desert. Through High Desert, We Love You, she's worked with an incredible team to bring local organizations together in service and in unity. She went on to represent the High Desert, earning two crowns, Miss Route 66 and Miss U.S. Woman of Achievement, and has continued to use her artistry, I can't say that word, to uplift small businesses and share the heart of her hometown through her lens. So welcome, Karen. I'm super excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
I just love all the things that you have done, and I love watching you on social media, and I love story time. I love it, and I just love that you're just a person of action, and you are always out there in the community. You do so many amazing things, but have you always been this type of person?
I was not. You would be shocked to see the difference. Like this person didn't exist. I started becoming this person, I'm gonna say in ending of 2021. That
Okay, so it's fairly recent. And so I remember from the podcast prior is that I not but if I remember that you had a really your upbringing was a little bit different. You had a hard time. Do you mind walking us through that just a little bit
yeah, of
and
course.
sharing how you became like it's all about refine and shine, right? So how did you like get to the who you are today and being such a light today?
Ooh, okay, so definitely I feel like everyone in life has experienced trauma. So I was I was born in Sultan, El Salvador. And I was taken in by my stepdad at the age of 3. So he adopted 3 strange kids from a different country at the age of 49. And so let's be humble, open, and transparent. So I came here at the age of 3, and at the age of 5, unfortunately, my body was taken advantage of by somebody close to, the family. And it happened twice. And so during that childhood, of course, as a child, it's hard to speak up about those things. Like, you don't know who to go to, and obviously the threats are there, especially when it comes from an adult. And so I went to food. So that was my comfort. So I was a heavier set child, and my mom also, because she grew in a different country, like it was during a war, she had to be like in a marriage that she didn't want to be in. She didn't have the equipment to really guide us through it because it wasn't just me that went through it. It was other family members too that were affected by that too. And so with that, food was my comfort. So I was very overweight. And no matter where I went, it was always she has to change, she has to lose weight. And I was developing way faster than the other girls because everything was coming in because of the weight.
Mhm.
And I remember my mom had put me into dance, into sports, into everything she can just to have me lose the weight. But no matter what, I always went to food. And because of that, uh, it led through the whole trauma through until high school. And I was always bullied as a kid. I was that shy kid that was always running. I was the girl that you found in the trash can.
Oh.
Like it was so bad to the point where I tricked my parents into making them think I was signing a waiver for a field trip, but it was actually a waiver to drop out of high school. That's how bad it was. And then I told them I will only go back to school if you put me in homeschool. And I actually flourished in homeschool. And I think after that, it was just the bitterness held on. So it was always the trying to find my place on where I belonged. But no matter where I went, it was always she doesn't look like us. So we're going to treat her differently. Like I wasn't ever invited to like parties, sleepovers. And then my parents were also, we became Christian at a very young age. So if it didn't worship the Lord, you could not do in the house. So like watching certain shows, So that was also another thing that was just it was hard being myself because I was a huge theater kid. I loved anything with acting, dancing. Like, if I could have my life be a musical, I would. And so it was hard because I couldn't be myself. And so I had moved out right after high school, and I moved down to Whittier, and my aunt was just like, you have the reins to do whatever you want with your life. And that's how I got into the theater world. I was a performer at Knott's Berry Farm. Then I was at Disney for a bit, but not in the role I wanted. And then I experienced a back injury, which that led into more trauma. And it just led into, I didn't realize I was dealing with a lot of depression because I was hating who I was. And because I just couldn't find my people, I couldn't find groups, I just felt like a loner most of the time. It was just no matter where I went, I just felt like a body there while everybody was walking through life. And after my back injury, I couldn't be normal like everybody else. I was in a back brace. I had pulled two of my discs out. I was getting spinal shots. I was in physical therapy. It was tough. And I had gained more weight than I already was. So then my anxiety grew, my panic disorder kind of went into high gear, but I didn't know I was dealing with all of that. None of that. And in 2019, I broke. My panic attacks were at its all-time highest. I was actually at Comic-Con and I collapsed in the bathroom from hyperventilating.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I just remember telling this girl, like, I'm gonna die. This is where I'm gonna die. Like, I can't even believe it because I had no idea. And all I was thinking in my head was, it's my bad diet. I don't exercise. I was pushing 180 pounds and I'm only 4'11. So it, it was misproportioned. And so I remember coming back, and it took them 4 months. I was seeing different psychiatrists on different medications, and none of it was really working. It was actually making me worse than getting me better.
Mhm.
And I remember I saw a psychiatrist in Newport, and she just kind of had talked to me a little bit. And she was just like, you know what it is about you? And let me be honest. And she's like, when you see home, where's home? And I was like, I don't know what home looks like. And she's like, but really, like, if you can go to a place that feels safe, where would you say the place is? And I was like, oh, it's church. And she's like, I think it's time for you to go back to your father's house. And I was like my dad's house? She's like, no, as in your father's house. And I was like, oh, she's like, because what you're going through is because you haven't built community, you feel alone. And that's what's feeding into the anxiousness. And because you don't have anyone to relate to or anything like that, she's like, you have to find your people. She's like, because the community is going to be the thing that's going to lift you up. And she's like, we're going to start you on vitamins because everything in my body was just depleted because I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. My panic attacks were to a point where I couldn't even leave the house. I couldn't
Mhm.
drive anymore. My body was releasing too much adrenaline for it to decipher. And in 2020, one hit so bad at work that my boyfriend at the time didn't come pick me up. His family couldn't come pick me up. My mom was out in El Salvador, and my dad, he's 81 right now, so I didn't want to bother him. And I remember my brother rushing, and he was like, it's time for you to come home and heal. And while his world was chaos, he went and he saved mine. So he pulled me out of that situation, brought me back home, and then I entered into therapy. I was going 3 times a week, and then I stopped all the medication. Also, I'm not a medical doctor, so please, if you guys are going through something, ask your doctor before you do anything. Uh, but yes, so I I started trying to find different things within the community. I was like, okay, it's time for me to start finding a job during this pandemic. And it was great during the pandemic. And I feel like everything had happened correctly because it was my reintroduction into the world.
Mhm.
Because I couldn't even leave my house because the moment I saw people, I was instantly like, it was,
Triggered.
yeah, I was down on the ground, almost seizure. Like, and so because the world was empty, it was perfect. And though it felt alone, it was that I have my therapist, I have my family, I have all of this. And my brother and my sister were the ones that really honed in because during that time I was still struggling. I had developed an eating disorder. I was dealing with the anxiety, the panic attacks, the not sleeping. It was a lot. And then after therapy, after finding like just different little community groups and trying to get involved, that's where things started to change. And I remember my second job during the pandemic was a hometown expert. So basically, we just went out to the community and we were kind of like Oprah, where we would just find different people and just give them money. I was working for T-Mobile, so I didn't work at a store. I was just like outside sales,
Mhm.
and I was having a blast because I was just like, okay, so this is what community is like. Okay, so the high desert does have some stuff, and I was there for a year, so I was kind of getting to know the community, and I was like, oh wow, like these all these places are so cool. Like I didn't know that there was all this stuff because when you're an outsider coming in, you just see dirt.
Mhm.
You don't really see much. And so at the time, I was like, okay, there's nothing in this high desert, but being in it, I was like, wow, there's like so much. And I was in that role for like a year, and then they took off the program, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do here? And not even 20 minutes later, Dana Hernandez from Rockin Our Disabilities called and was like, I don't have much, but I can see something in you. She's like, I can already see that you love this community, but let me show you how to do it properly. And I was like, what? I was like so confused by what she meant. But through her mentorship, I met also Tina Kennedy from High Desert Second Chance. I call both of them my nonprofit mamas because they also yell at me like moms. And they have given me so much guidance. And because of them, they're the reasons why I love this community so much because they helped me see where the gap was and how to fill it. And yeah, so totally went into a whole rant, but that's how
No,
I
I love it.
that to this.
No, I love that because it's like you had to go through and like we don't even understand it and like we always like we sometimes we have to go through pain and then it gives us a purpose. Like you had to go through a lot and I mean just that whole time frame from the time that you were 5 till um 2019, that's a long time to deal with all of the anxiety, all the issues that you were dealing with. I can totally relate. I have a loved one so deeply that in my own house in my own life that has suffered from the panic attack, so I can relate to that where they like thought they were dying, they're pulled over on the side of the freeway, you have to call 911 because they don't understand what's happening. So I can totally understand. And going through all the different like doctors and it's like you're a guinea pig because they're like, we'll try this medication, we'll try this medication, try this. And like sometimes then all of a sudden you're like on 12 medications and you feel like a zombie. It's like practicing medicine, right? That's what they call it. And so I totally can relate to all the things that you're saying. And like I feel for you that you had to go through this for so long and then you found your purpose, right? Like you found and where like the pandemic could have been was devastating to some, for you it was a way to reintroduce yourself to the world and that you see that everything happens for a reason, like your pain was for a purpose, so to speak. And I love how like you found people who wanted to support you and mentor you. And I think that that's one of the hardest things. Like I see you sharing about the community. I live in the high desert and I see you sharing about the community. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't know that. Like I didn't even know what the Rocking Disabilities organization was about. And so can you kind of tell us a little bit about what that organization is about?
Yeah, so Rockin' Our Disabilities is a educational social sorry, it's a social recreational educational program for people with special needs. So it goes from kids all the way to adults. So like imagine a boys and girls club, but for kids with disabilities. So they have anything from like beat therapy, they have dance, they have choir, they have like programs, like different programs for them to feel like they have their own community because they want to feel just like us. They're normal, just like us. Like they've competed at the Nike 3-on-3, which they are so good at basketball. They've done soccer. I believe some of them do baseball. Like it's amazing to see the journeys because, before Dana came into my life, it was hard to see people with disabilities be able to do what we do. I always saw them with limitations. So I was just like, oh, like they can only do like certain things and limited things. But it was like being in the program, I was like, oh, whoa, like they they play better than I do. Or they, um, like when they paint or they create stuff, they have so much talent in them, so much talent in them. And it was an amazing journey to really see all of them go in different places. Some of them are already married too. And I've only been there for 3 years. And I believe two or three of them are already married in the program. I'm like, get it, guys. Yeah.
I really like that because, I think that, and no matter what, like some people have disabilities that we can't see, right? Like the mental health, the panic attacks, all of those types of things are a disability that people don't like they can't see. Sometimes we have disabilities people can't see. I have a nephew who's autistic, and the creation and the mind that he has, like he cannot do certain things, but his creativity, I can see he builds stuff out of styrofoam, like haunted houses, like these styrofoam models, and it's like the creativity, and that's the stuff that people don't see is that they just like you said, the limitations, people don't understand what they can't see or what the difficulties they may be going through, and that gives them an outlet to express themselves in ways that they may not be able to do otherwise. So I think that's really amazing. Um, one of the things that you've done is you've earned two crowns. I think you just gave up your title for Miss Route 66, right? And then you also Miss US Woman of Achievement. Can you tell us a little bit about what I mean from this transformation? It's been 5 years since the pandemic. Like when did you start to compete for these types of things? And can you kind of walk us through that as well?
Yeah, so I never saw myself in pageants. No, not one bit. Uh, so it was during the time, it was 2023. I was talking to one of my friends who she used to do pageants with her daughter, and they had a show during the time that Jersey Shore was coming out. I don't remember the name of it. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I have to be a judge at the Felin pageant." And I was like, "Pageants still exist?" She's like, "Yeah, they do." And she's like, "You would be really good at it because like you do so much for the community." She's like, "Would you ever do that?" And I was like, "No." And she was just like, "Karen, just take some time, think about it." And I was like, "Which one would I do first?" I was like, because I was like, all pageants, they request for a talent. And I was like, I don't have a talent. And she was laughing. She's like, just think about it. And I remember during that time, I was getting so involved into church. And I remember telling my pastors, like, I really want to do something that's going to make a change, something where I have a voice, like something. And there's like, okay, so like, what do you want to go from this? And I was like, well, one day I want to be a content creator, but a content creator with a purpose. I want to have like where people are not like, oh, they're just eating food, they're just like picking clothes. Like I wanted to have like a message behind it. And so then instantly it was I woke up and God was like, you're gonna compete. And I was like, excuse me? And so I remember talking to her name was Terry. And I was like, okay, how does this work? And she's like, okay, you have to pick your platform. You have to, these are all the things that you're going to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to represent Rockin' Our Disabilities because I have a disability. I have an anxiety and panic disorder. And when people hear that, it's either they use it for like oh, we're going to use this against her, or they're just like, oh, so she's not capable of handling things under pressure, or she cannot do this. And I was like, you know what? I want to get rid of that stereotype. Like, I need to showcase that we are capable of doing whatever we set our minds to. And I was like, and I'm hoping that these kids someday will be inspired by that. And actually, one of um, the little girls from the program, she is actually now the mini Miss Route 66. She won
Oh,
the title this year. And I was so proud of her because I was just like, wow, like my journey led to her following that journey and now she's crowned. Like I'm so proud of her. Um, so when I went, I overshared on my application too much. Shouldn't have done that. But it was my first time. I didn't know what I was doing. And then they had us walk up and down. I was like, I don't even have a model walk. I don't have. And they were just like, oh, you don't have to compete in talent. I was like, yes, because I was like, I don't know how to sing. I don't have a dance. I'm just gonna walk on stage. And so they were naming out all the things that I was doing within the community. And I remember thinking to myself, like, all these other ladies are doing above and beyond great things. Like, I'm just excited to be here. And I was like, God brought me here for a reason, and it might just be because somebody needs to hear the story, and they might come up to me and ask me questions, something like that. But when they were just like, "Oh, you won Miss Route 66," I was like, that was my first ever pageant ever. So I was like, just, I was in shock because I was like, me, Karen, like, you are trusting me with this. And so I remember I was just like, okay, now is the time. Like, now I have to go full throttle with this, because I was like, these kids deserve a spotlight because they do so much. And there was certain limitations to the crown, most of it because, like, it's Route 66. And I was like, I want to take it above that. Like, I want to take it throughout the whole high desert. I was like, what am I going to do here? And I just kept getting very like, something else has to happen. And if I can't wear the crown here or be an example here, like, what else can I do? And so I just kept getting involved, going to different things. And then I started a program called the Small But Mighty Project, where I was teaching kids from fourth to sixth grade, kids how to give back and volunteer back into their community. So I would go to their different schools, because at the time I was working for a senator, so we were always around that. And so, like, I was just like, okay, so like, this school is lacking in food, and this school is lacking in transportation, and this school is lacking in, some of these kids are so neglected. Like, these kids just need love. And so she's like, what can I do for like my community to make a difference? And I remember partnering up with the District of Adelanto, and we did two schools, and we brought 16 students to the city of Victorville, and they got to meet the mayor. They got to meet Child Protective Services. They got to get a lot of goodies from High Desert Second Chance. They got to meet their assemblyman, the Senate, and then VVTA and all that stuff. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, God is calling me to like do all of this. And so Terry had came back and was like, hey, there's another pageant. It's called the Miss US Women of Achievement. Sorry, Women of Achievement pageant. And I was just like, and she's like, but this one's on a bigger scale. So this one needs the talent, like all that, like the evening gown, the pre, all, just the whole run. And I was like, um, if it's from God, He will make a way. And I was like, but this one, I could go all over, like past the high desert, and bring these resources back into the high desert. And so I was like, God, if it's from you, like, you will make it happen. And it was instantly, people were just like, Karen, we're going to sponsor you. Karen, we're going to sponsor you. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is real. This is real. And I remember I was just like, okay, I have to stay committed. And, you know, I've always been committed, but I was just like, this time, like, if I'm gonna be an example, I have to live through it. Like, I have to be it. I can't just be like, oh, like wishy washy. I was like, no. I was like, I have to be disciplined this time. I remember reaching out to Deborah, and I was like, these are my plans. This is what I'm gonna do. We got 6 weeks to do it. And she was just like, Karen, 6 weeks is not enough. And I was like, we're gonna do something. And so, yeah, for the Miss Women of Achievement, I represented Rockin Our Disabilities all the way. I showcased my talent. It was the Everyone was doing speeches. They were doing songs, puppetry, all this stuff. And when I came up, my talent was photography. And so what I had done was I gave them like a little bio of me, like, oh, this is how I started photography. And instantly the screen went into like myself, and I was fighting with myself. And it was the, Karen, like, you didn't start it. Like, why did you start it without me? And I was like, bro, like, I got it. And it was like, no, like, you're just telling them, but you have to show them. And it's like, I got this. So, like, we were fighting back and forth. So I was fighting with myself. So it was like me as a person, and then me as the vision fighting. And then everybody's like, wait, what the heck is happening? And so then I was like, hey guys, like, I'm gonna shut her off really quick because like she's just too much right now. So like I had clicked it and it went into instant static, and then it started playing everything that I had done in the community. So everything from the kids to Rockin' Our Disabilities to High Desert We Love You. And everybody was like, Karen, like, that was the most moving thing we had ever seen. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is so crazy. And people are like, we didn't know that, like, you can do this much. Like, how could you storytell through photography and through videography? Like, when you post things, like, there's a story behind it. And I was like, it's all God. Like, it's literally all God. And after that, when they announced the winner too, I thought I had lost because there was another girl who I was competing with, and so she had won the title. And I was like, oh man, like, am I supposed to walk out from like right here? Or because we were supposed to be together, but they had us separated. And so I remember I was like, am I supposed to walk off or like, what am I doing? And then they're just like, oh, and then the Miss US Women of Achievement is Karen. And I was like, wait, what? All my friends were like, Karen, like you won. And I was like, what? I, it was just like this shocking moment. And so yeah, after winning, I was like, this is for them. Like, this is all for them. Because again, I set my mind to it. I accomplished it. God made a way. And if I can do it, they can do it too. So,
I love all of that. I love all the things that you were like, you took us back to, all the things. And then now, like within these last 5 years, all the things that you're achieving. And one of the things that is you do dance. Like, when did you start dancing? Because I know you say you don't have a talent. Like, your photography is amazing. I just saw some of the photos that you were like, you did the quick shot. I forget what it was. Of Brisa, from Las Brisas restaurant. My dear friend Brisa, you just did some photography of her, and you just did that caption real quick of that. But you also do dancing. I see you practicing dancing. I see you do dancing. So when did that talent of dancing come in?
so it was during the time that, like my childhood when all the trauma had happened, because I had gone to food and I had grown overweight. My mom had put us in dance. And to be honest, that's where I had found home. Like, that was the place where I could express myself. It was no, I just felt like that's where I was at. And I always had that. And then when my dad retired, we couldn't afford it anymore. And so then she put us in ice skating. And that was so much fun. But that was really hard on your legs. Falling was so hard. And so then everything went up in price, so they had stopped that. But then during middle school, it was I'm gonna join the drill team and not tell my mom because it was we couldn't, if it didn't honor God, we couldn't do it. But I would do anything that was in dance if it was in school. For high school, I was in cheerleading for 3 weeks until she found out. It was always, I always went back. Like, for drama class, it was okay, cool. Like, I'm not allowed to be a part of the play, but can I still at least learn it? And she'd be like, yeah, of course. So it was, my heart always went back to dance. And when I had auditioned for Knott's Berry Farm, it was the dream of a lifetime. And I was like, all right, my next goal is someday I'm going to be performing at Disney. But because I was heavier set during that time, I didn't fit within Disney's like height and weight. And they were just like, hey, like, if you can come back and maybe like lose this much. And I was like, that's a lot. And I didn't have the discipline there. And then last year, me and my friend, we had gone to Disney just because like we needed a break. And we're like, let's go play at the park. And she was like, would you ever come back to this environment? I was like, yes, but if it's not entertainment, I will not do it. If it's not in dance, I don't want it. And she was like, what is it about dance? I was like, I don't know. You feel free to be yourself and you can get as creative as you want. And there's so many different types of dances that it challenges you every way, because theater is different than hip hop. Hip hop is different than ballet. Ballet is different than lyrical. And then lyrical is different than contemporary. So you have to navigate through it. And I was just like, each one is it's so much fun. And she was like, would you ever audition again? I was like, heck yes. And then in summer, the auditions came in. I auditioned, and then so I had auditioned in June and I found out in August that I got the position. So I was like, yes. So being back in dance, I'm so excited. It just dance has always been home. I'm just a huge theater kid.
No, I love that. I love that. I love seeing you shine. Like, you really show up in a lot of, beautiful ways. And I love, like, you're so involved with your church too. You're constantly doing things with your church. I love seeing your workout videos with Deborah. Deborah was on my podcast previously. She runs an amazing gym, but I just love all the things that you bring to the community. And one of the things that you just, you're also partnering with clothing brands. Like, how did all that start to happen?
So I I've always wanted to work in entertainment. Like I said, one day I will land in a musical. You guys heard it here first. One day I will be in a musical. And so I was just like, you know what? I have to start getting my name out there. And now that I work at Disney, like I am in a room full of so much talent, in a room that's so full of it. And I've been learning from different people how to do different things and how to land different brands. Like how to enter into like the background acting, all that good stuff. And so it's been such a wild ride. And so I just started sending out different messages to different clothing brands. And the good thing is I have, a partnership here at one of our studios here in the city of Victorville. And so I was just like, hey, like, could we work something out? Like, and so it has worked out pretty amazing. And I landed a few, which has been amazing. And so I'm excited to see where the future will grow from here.
So the girl who was shy, who didn't really want to talk and didn't was afraid to talk to people, all the things is now reaching out to people and building partnerships, building relationships, and all the things. What a journey it's been for you. You were like truly like the refine and shine. Like you have taken like your life and you truly transformed into this like beautiful person. I'm not saying that you weren't beautiful before, but I'm talking about I can see the love and I can see like the way that you just radiate. Like when I first got, and it was fact Deborah who made me aware of you, when I was looking for the panel member for that one particular podcast, and then now I just, I follow you and I see all the things, and I'm like, does this girl ever slow down? I know you do slow down, but I do. I just see all the things that you're doing, and like, what a transformation! Like, do you ever like look and like, oh my gosh, God, you have given me so many great things to do?
Yeah, every year since the pandemic, I'm always like, wow. So for 5 years, I had done like a year recap, like the 1 year here in the high desert, second year in the high desert. And it was just watching how I grew and where I've been going. It's shocking because I never thought that Karen would ever have a community, like people who genuinely cared about her, people who actually wanted to be there for me. Like I never thought that that would be my life. I just thought it was always going to be the same thing where it was the, oh yeah, like their community, but um, like they know who I am, they just don't know who I am. And I want to get away from that where it's like I want people to like when they see me, it's the Karen is this person, this person. So like if anything were to ever happen to me, I hope to leave a legacy behind. No
I
matter.
think I think that's important, and I love that. And then you do everything like you rely on your faith, you really rely on God to lead you into all the directions. Like whatever direction you're going, you go, and you have it's between you and God, and like He gives you the guidance that you need, and you follow it. I think that that's amazing. One of the things that I think is also I love how you're doing like you do the recap and stuff. So how long have you actually lived in the high desert? Has it only been 5 years, or were you in the high desert
I was
prior?
Yeah, so I was in the high desert from 2005 to 2012, and then I left back to Whittier, and then I came back during the pandemic. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. I gotcha. So one of the things, like I just like I said, I love seeing all the things that you share about like the local community and all the things because like I've lived in the high desert all my life actually. Um, born and raised in Barstow, and then I transferred over, like we moved over to Victorville my high school year, and then high school years, and then Hesperia, I've lived in for a little bit, Apple Valley. So I've lived in the high desert. And I just like it's good to find that, a lot of people have that negative, like, oh, the city's bad or the high desert's bad or all these things. But there are beautiful places in the high desert. Like we just recently went, me and my husband are part of a nonprofit organization that helps veterans. And we just recently had a big event at Horseman Park. And everybody says like it's for RCs and they're like remote control cars. Like the the Horseman Center is just like a beautiful, array of rocks and stuff. Like Beyonce did a video for it, what, The Lion King or something like that, right? And it's all those different things that we don't see because we're just so we could be so negative, but or we can just change our perspective, and like there are beautiful things. You just sometimes you have to find it. You have to look for it. And if you start your day saying, being negative, then that's one thing, but you got to like, so we have to switch our way of thinking and being like, okay, what can I find today that's beautiful, or what can bring others joy? And I think that that's such a great way to look at things. So I would love to see, I mean, you are so involved in so many things. What is your life like? Like, how do you keep yourself positive? Um, what are the things that you're doing? Because you're very fit. I know that you work out, you make time for the gym, you do, all these different things. Like, how has your life changed from, 2000 to present? Like, what have you shifted in your life to be the person you are today?
Well, definitely asking for help. And I know that that's a tough thing for a lot of people is requesting for help because we don't want to be seen as weak. But let me tell you, when you are your most vulnerable, is where it's knowing where you're at and knowing that people can help carry that. One time, my pastor was just like, if a bodybuilder could lift 160 pounds, and he's like, but if you were to grab a body and take it from where the Mistress Car Wash was all the way to where the US Bank is on Hesperia Road, he's like, do you think that that person can hold the 160 pounds all the way there? Or do you think that it would be better if the community came, helped them, and then took that? He's like, don't be afraid to ask for help. And um, he was just like, it's being honest with yourself. And it's, again, it's knowing where you're at and wanting that change and requesting for accountability, even though it's really, really hard. Till this day, a lot of people, like you said, I look happy, all of that, but I feel like everybody deals with this insecurity. So let me be humble, open, and transparent. I can be my worst critic because it's always, I can do better and I can be better. And how can I do all these things? And this year when I lost my job working for the Senate, it had kind of not spiraled me a little out of control, but it was oh my gosh, like I won't be able to make a difference. Like, how do I go from here? Like, how do I do this? And then it was oh man, like I just failed myself. And I remember telling my pastors about it, of like where I was at. I remember telling my job where I was at because I was still working also like at Disney, but only part time. And they were just like, hey, Karen, maybe it's time for you to go back to therapy. And when I had heard that, I was like, wow, like they're right. Like it's time. And so it was getting back into therapy. It was also being mindful of, like my health, like giving my body what it needs, nurturing it. And that was one thing that I had to learn with Deborah, because when I first came with Deborah, I was still struggling with my eating patterns. My eating disorder would be triggered a lot. Um, I wasn't drinking enough water. My body was just at absolute like nothing. And she taught me about work life balance and like eating healthy. And if it wasn't for her, like I wouldn't be where I'm at physically or like mentally. Like she had to hold me accountable so many times as well. So like, thank you, Deborah. And yeah, another thing is just finding people that are really going to be there for you, like genuinely be there for you. And you will find those people. It's just going to take some time to find the right people. But I think just being honest with yourself is the first thing. Yeah.
I think that that's so important. I love how you shared like that you went through a hard time and then you went and you talked to your pastor. The fact that you have a good relationship with your pastor too is amazing because um there's lots of churches out there, and like I know like they probably don't even know your name, right? So like I'm just being honest, like I grew up in a Catholic church, and then I go to I'm a Christian church now, but I my pastor doesn't know who I am. And so the fact that you built that relationship with your pastor, I think that that's amazing too. And that takes courage to be able to build that trust. And I see, when you asking for help for people and asking people for accountability and all of those things, that you feel that you can trust them to help you, that you have that courage to ask, because a lot of times people try to do it all on their own, right? You just said that, like when you ask for help, the doors open up. Also, when you talked about when you had this happen where your job shifted, you started just you talking about it instead of just like, okay, I'm just going to try to figure this out. You talk to people about it, and having that courage to talk to people is really hard. I know, like for me, I'm a government employee, right? Like my full-time job's federal government, and I'm shut down, right? And so once I start talking to people and like people are like, well, you can focus on this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Like yes, financially, I'm still figuring it out, but the thing is like, it's the doors that can open when you're telling people like, "Hey, this is what's going on. What do you think about," like, having that mentorship or somebody that you can say, "Hey, I have all these issues, I'm going through this," and they can say they open up opportunities that you don't even think about, right? Having that safe comfort zone, I think is so important. I love that you also, Deborah's helping you, help you with that work-life balance and helping you so that you're not run down. And I think rest is important too. Remember, even Jesus rested, like, right? So we got to rest too. And I know that you do that too. And I think that that's so important. And I just love all the things that you're creating for, and you're what a role model you're showing to others. Like you are such a great, powerful role model. So I can't wait. Like I can wait to see the musical because you're gonna have this great musical. Like it's gonna be the life of Karen, right? Like can't you see this musical coming?
I can't wait. Genuinely, I can't wait.
And then you do the photography, as well. And if people want amazing photographs, they can contact you, they can reach out to you. There's just so many things that you offer. And I think that having all of these, using your creative power, um, eh, when you're helping others by the gifts that God gave you, I think that that's also beautiful too. So I just love everything about you, Karen. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
How can people, if they wanted to get in contact with you for like the photography or any of the things that you do, like what's the best way that they can follow you and reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Life of Karen, or my photography page, which is at kdvision.vibes. And yeah, or Facebook, which is just Karen Diaz.
I love that. I love that. But as I wrap up, I always love to ask my guests, what is a word, a phrase, an action, a book, or something they can do, anything they can do, in order to help them refine and shine.
Ooh, I would say, ooh, that's actually really, really good. Mm, I would say just don't give up because better days are ahead. Better days are ahead. And no matter where you're at or where you're going through, the right people are going to come into your life to get you where you need to be. So I would say just be patient. It's going to take time, but trust me, it's worth it. Because once you see what your life will look like, it's going to shock you as well.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. The don't give up is so important. And I think that we need that every single day. Like, you know, what we have to, there's so many things that can set us back or so many things that can push us down. But remember, it's just it's a period of time. It's things can pass. And just remember every day, keep pushing forward by not giving up. I think that's important. So thank you so much. Thank you for being an amazing guest. And I appreciate all the things you're doing for the community.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.